Pastoral presence is the way that you navigate from moment to moment, from cradle to grave, paying attention to what's happening in the community. It's about the work of God in the world, and you get the privilege of having a hand in it. Even in the hard days, you can make it because it's not just you. It's the community of faith speaking on God's behalf, the word that the world desperately wants and needs to hear. I would not trade being a pastor for any other thing in the world. It is the greatest gift that God has given me, the privilege of serving God in a world that wants nothing more than words of hope and words of truth and words that nurture and redeem.
At this point in my life, I look back and realize I've been living the dream I had as a small child.
There was something inside of me from the earliest memories I have that there was a God that does love us. And the pastoral influence, I would say, reconnected and reaffirmed that with me in my high school years.
It wasn't very cool to tell your peers at 14, yeah, I think I want to be a minister. You know, they think, oh, goody two-shoes.
I had never seen a woman pastor. I'd never seen a woman take up the offering, baptize a child, do anything. But my pastor said, why don't you consider going to seminary?
I am thankful that the pastor's presence is always needed from the cradle to the grave. I am Presbyterian today because my mother enters college as a United Methodist. My father enters as a Baptist. And so there on the campus was this Presbyterian pastor. They come to his church and they become Presbyterian.
My campus minister in college gave me the avenues to be able to explore and use my abilities for ministry. It was unbiased and it was open, and it became a safe place and a safe presence for me to go to. That's what the church is. That's our role as a pastor, is to open up those opportunities and to guide them through it. Pastors are present in all areas of life. Their presence is throughout all time, no matter what that person is going through.
Most ministers are going from the hospital room visiting one of their congregation members, which can be a very difficult, sad experience, to, doing a wedding in the same day. And God is not just with us in times of crisis, but God is with us in the best of times.
When you're there in the good times, you're able to really be there in the bad times. And the laughter allows you to be able to be with people when the tears come. And part of being a pastor is people trust you, and their trust is earned. It doesn't just happen.
They are in some ways viewed as being on a pedestal, but in all reality, being a pastor means nothing of the sort. It means being down and being in the life, in the common muck and mess and joy and celebration alongside the people. To be vulnerable enough to let others into our lives.
You honor God with your presence, whether someone is looking or not. You're still under God's radar. And so if you stumble because you were weak and you fell into your flesh, then how many other people are gonna fall because they looked up to you?
The upcoming generations are truly concerned with authenticity, with being real. I think that is a huge desire for people to see that in the church, to see that in the world. Is absolutely vital.
We've got to come into the house of the Lord with all that we are, all of our imperfections, all of our challenges, all of our burdens, so that God is present with us even in the midst of all the stuff that we're dealing with.
Wherever people are, there is an opportunity to be in ministry with people. There is a way to be pastorally present to people, inviting others to come, growing yourself. You never stop growing, and you follow Jesus by serving others and being able to think about how we do that. I end up being involved in doing some adult Bible studies with people, and in the process of that, watching their faith formation blossom as they interact their life with the Scripture.
We have to meet the needs of the people where they are. And sometimes that calls for you to leave your office and get from behind this, mahogany desk to put on a pair of jeans and get out and work side by side with the congregation. People would rather see a testimony than hear one. And so we restore a community that's falling apart because no one had that rich fellowship.
It's not enough to be a show and tell pastor where you interpret the biblical scriptures in a modern day world.
There are all sorts of dynamics we have to deal with now that we haven't had to in the past. I mean, technology is going to be a huge factor in the church of the future, whether we want it to be or not. It's going to keep growing, and that has to be factored in.
Social media being what it is, you have to be extremely particular about your message. Not vain, something that's full of meaning and is meaningful to people and that meets people where they are.
The message has not changed. Human beings are still human beings. And so helping people understand that it's not all about me, but how we together are God's best answer to the stewardship of the earth and the care of others.
Wherever you go, there are people in need. And if you respond to them from your heart, you become a pastor.
A great pastor will go to that one sheep and say, let's talk, let's have lunch.
I sat in Starbucks for 4 hours today talking to people. And I don't think that people think about pastors that way, but I think that that's your 21st century pastor. I am really looking forward to one of these students coming back to me and saying, well, I just got into seminary, I'm going. It would be a joy for me to have that experience come full circle.
The ripple occurs when one life affects another, and that life affects another, and we multiply outward. That's where pastors will thrive.
Because of who God is, and because I've answered this call, I have a chance to go into small churches and small communities and with the larger church and find ways to help us respond to the call that God has for us as an institution, but more importantly as individuals. I get to share the good news.
This is the journey I am called to take. I must continue what they have started. I don't know how I could stop now. I've seen the beauty that is this journey, and I have to be a part of it.